Today, we're diving into the history of one of the most controversial brawlers in the game, Frank. Often labeled as the worst brawler, Frank has had a tumultuous journey in Brawl Stars. Let's uncover the reasons behind this reputation and see how he's evolved over time. Frank was introduced to Brawl Stars on May 21, 2018. With his impressive HP, he seemed like a formidable brawler. His attack hammer hit dealt considerable damage, but had a noticeable delay, making it difficult to hit moving targets. His super stunning blow could stun enemies in a wide area, making him a potential game changer in team fights. However, players quickly noticed his glaring weaknesses. Frank's slow attack speed and long wind-up time made him an easy target for agile brawlers. But his movement speed was not a major problem because he has a fast speed. For a tanky brawler, it is quite good. Despite all of his mechanics, he wasn't the best by default, and hasn't been used in the competitive meta and in high trophies. For the casual players, Frank is the essence of straightforward fun in Brawl Stars. His playstyle revolves around simplicity yet packs a punch that keeps matches exciting and engaging. That's why players of all levels enjoy him, whether you're smashing obstacles or stunning opponents. Frank brings a satisfying gameplay loop that's easy to pick up and hard to put down. In June 19, 2018, Supercell made a decision to give Frank two significant balance changes, sparking hope among players that the beloved brawler would finally find his place in the game. The first change came in the form of a 3.4% health buff, making Frank slightly tankier. This adjustment aimed to increase his survivability on the battlefield. But it was the second buff that really turned heads. Frank's attack received a significant 0.67 tile increase. This boost, especially noticeable in game modes like Brawl Ball and Gem Grab, promised to elevate Frank's effectiveness in key situations. These buffs catapulted Frank into a new level of power, catching many in the Brawl Stars community by surprise. Some even speculated that Supercell may have gone too far, fearing Frank had become too dominant. However, as with any balance adjustment, the community quickly adapted. Pros discovered effective counters, such as maintaining distance and using knockback abilities from brawlers like Shelly, El Primo, and Dynamite. Within a month, the meta shifted again as players learned to counterplay against Frank's enhanced capabilities. His dominance subsided, and the community's initial concerns were put to rest. After nearly 3 months, on August 31, 2018, another set of balance changes was set to shake up Brawl Stars. Frank, our heavy-hitting friend, was about to get the boost he desperately needed. But that was all about to change. Frank received two crucial buffs that no one saw coming. The first buff increased the range of his main attack by 0.66 tiles, extending it from 5.67 to 6.33 tiles. The second buff was similar but for his super, increasing its range by 0.66 tiles as well, from 6.67 to 7.33 tiles. These buffs transformed Frank from one of the worst brawlers to one of the best. Sure, he still had an attack delay, but now he could get closer and become a real threat. Back in the early days of Brawl Stars, there were fewer brawlers, which meant fewer counters to Frank. This worked in his favor, making him one of the top picks in almost every game mode. In the competitive meta, Frank was a beast. He was even popular in solo showdown, where teaming was common. His high health and survivability made him a first choice. These balance changes turned Frank into the best lane pick across almost all game modes. His newfound range and power made him a formidable force. On September 27, 2018, Just 1 month after his buffs, Supercell decided to nerf Frank. But don't worry, these changes weren't too harsh, just enough to keep things fair. First up, Frank's main attack range was reduced by 0.33 tiles, from 6.33 tiles to 6 tiles. This nerf wasn't drastic, but it did make him a bit less overwhelming. The second nerf mirrored the first. Frank's super range was also decreased by 0.33 tiles, from 7.33 tiles to 7 tiles. These nerfs were carefully measured to ensure Frank remained a balanced and well-rounded brawler. While they did reduce his dominance slightly, they didn't turn him into a weak brawler. As I mentioned earlier, these changes didn't drastically affect Frank's viability. He remained a solid choice in many game modes, and his overall gameplay was still strong. The September nerfs were essential to keeping Frank balanced without stripping away his power. These changes helped maintain a fair and enjoyable game for everyone during that year. 2019 was a monumental year for Brawl Stars as it went global, and our favorite heavy hitter, Frank, saw some significant changes. Let's take a closer look at how Frank's journey evolved throughout the year. The first big change came on January 29, 2019. Frank's Star Power Power Grab received a major rework. Previously, Frank would get a damage boost by picking up skulls from defeated enemy brawlers, regardless of who got the final blow. However, the rework changed this. Now Frank only gets a damage boost when he personally defeats an enemy brawler. This means he no longer benefits from his teammates' takedowns. For many players, including myself, this rework felt like a nerf. In team-based game modes like Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, and Bounty, it was common for teammates to secure kills, which previously allowed Frank to benefit. But with the rework, Frank had to secure the eliminations himself to profit from his star power. This change made Frank weaker in coordinated team plays, reducing his overall effectiveness. But Supercell wasn't done with Frank for the year. They were ready to bring him back into the spotlight with future buffs and adjustments. The rework of Power Grab was a turning point for Frank. While it initially seemed like a setback, it set the stage for more balanced and strategic gameplay, and Supercell was committed to ensuring Frank remained a fun brawler. 2019 was a year of ups and downs for our hammer-wielding friend, Frank. After facing a tough rework earlier in the year, Frank finally got some much-needed love on June 11, 2019. Earlier in 2019, Frank's Star Power, Power Grab, was reworked to only give him a damage boost when he personally defeated an enemy. This made him weaker in team-based modes, as he could no longer benefit from his teammates' kills. Recognizing the impact of this change, Supercell decided to buff Power Grab to make it more relevant and powerful. On June 11, 2019, Frank received a significant boost to his star power. First, the damage boost from defeating an enemy was increased from 40% to 50%. This slight increase made Frank's attacks more devastating after securing a kill. But that's not all. The duration of the damage boost was also extended from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. This gave Frank more time to capitalize on his enhanced power and dominate the battlefield. Supercell understood that the initial rework had limited Power Grab's effectiveness. These buffs were aimed at making Frank's star power more impactful and bringing him back into the meta. With these changes, Frank became a more formidable brawler. The increased damage boost and extended duration made him a force to be reckoned with, especially in the hands of skilled players. As 2019 continued, Frank received another exciting update. On July 17, 2019, Frank's second star power was introduced, adding a new dimension to his gameplay. Frank's second star power sponge was added to the game. As the name suggests, Sponge gave Frank an additional 1000 health, making him even tankier. At first glance, an extra 1000 health might seem underwhelming, but in competitive play, this boost made a significant difference. Frank was already known for his high health, and with Sponge he became the tankiest brawler in the game. This extra health allowed Frank to sustain more damage and remain a frontline presence, putting immense pressure on the opposing team. He was particularly effective when paired with healers like Poco. As 2019 continued, Frank received some exciting updates, from new abilities to stylish makeovers. On October 23, 2019, Frank received a stylish update. His appearance was revamped, giving him a fancier and more polished look. Alongside this, his new skin, Caveman Frank, was introduced, adding a touch of prehistoric flair to his character. After numerous changes, Frank continued to face challenges, but Supercell was determined to make him more viable. On November 7, 2019, Frank received another buff, this time to his health. While not a massive buff, the 300 health increase brought Frank's total health from 5,800 to 6,100. This gave him a bit more durability, but it wasn't enough to push him back to his former glory. Supercell continued their efforts to improve Frank. A few months later, on February 19, 2020, Frank received yet another buff. This time, his health was increased from 6,100 to 6,400. However, even with these buffs, Frank's position in the meta didn't improve significantly. The addition of more brawlers with knockbacks, long-range attacks, and other mechanics continued to pose challenges for Frank. The evolving meta with new brawlers and mechanics made it difficult for Frank to shine. While the health buffs made him more durable, they weren't enough to overcome the increasing number of counters he faced. Despite the continuous efforts from Supercell, Frank remained a brawler who struggled to find his place in the competitive scene. But the journey wasn't over yet. Supercell was committed to finding the right balance for Frank, ensuring he could hold his own in the ever-changing landscape of Brawl Stars. Just when Frank seemed to be struggling, a game-changing update arrived in Brawl Stars. In March 2020, Supercell introduced a new feature that would reshape the meta, Gadget. Gadgets brought a new level of strategy to Brawl Stars, giving each brawler unique abilities that could be used 3 times per match. These gadgets provided different effects, buffs making brawlers stronger and more versatile. Returning to our subject, Frank, he received a gadget called Active Noise Cancelling. This gadget addressed many of Frank's weaknesses by removing slow effects, knockbacks, and stuns. When activated, Frank became an unstoppable force, especially when he had his super ready. Active Noise Cancelling transformed Frank into a walking machine, allowing him to maintain his momentum and pressure enemies without worrying about being interrupted. This made him much more formidable in battles. However, it wasn't just Frank who benefited from gadgets. Every brawler received one, which balanced the playing field. While Active Noise Cancelling made Frank stronger, other brawlers also gained powerful abilities, keeping the meta dynamic and competitive. Although gadgets didn't make Frank the best brawler, they significantly improved his viability. With the right timing and strategy, Frank could now hold his own and contribute effectively to his team. The introduction of gadgets marked a new era for Brawl Stars, bringing fresh strategies and excitement to the game. For Frank, it was a much-needed boost that helped him become a stronger and more reliable pick. Just a week later, Frank's gadget received a small nerf. While it didn't make much sense at the time, as Frank wasn't the top pick in the meta, this nerf definitely impacted his performance. The nerf to active noise canceling slightly weakened Frank, making him less effective in crucial moments. This change turned Frank down a notch, affecting his presence in the meta. Despite this setback, Frank remained a decent and balanced brawler. The nerf was a reminder that in Brawl Stars, the meta is always evolving, and brawlers must adapt to stay competitive. As 2020 drew to a close, Frank received his final balance change of the year. Let's see how this last update impacted him and compare his health from 2018 to now. On December 15, 2020, Frank received a significant buff to his overall health. His health increased by 600 HP, going from 6,400 to a massive 7,000. This made Frank a true unit on the battlefield. However, despite this boost, his overall damage and attack delay still held him back from being a top pick in competitive play. While Frank's health was now at an impressive 7,000, his attack mechanics prevented him from dominating the competitive scene. But let's take a moment to appreciate the journey of Frank's health from 2018 to now. In 2018, Frank's health was 5,600. Fast forward to 2020 till 2024, his health had increased to 7,000. That's a remarkable 25% increase over the years. This increase, combined with his star power sponge, which adds an additional 1,100 health, made Frank one of the tankiest brawlers in the game. His potential to absorb damage and hold the front line was unmatched. Despite the ups and downs, Frank's journey through the balance changes made him a unique and formidable brawler. His health buffs and star power gave him giant potential, even if his damage and attack delay required strategic play. Later in 2021, Frank received his second gadget, Irresistible Attraction. This gadget allowed Frank to pull enemies towards him. However, this gadget didn't live up to expectations. The Irresistible Attraction gadget actually made things worse for Frank. Tanky brawlers and high damage dealers became a menace, countering him effectively. This gadget didn't help him much in the meta. Frank's first gadget, Active Noise Cancelling, remained superior. It addressed his weaknesses more effectively, making it the preferred choice among players. On April 7, 2021, Frank received another set of buffs. For the first time, his damage was increased. His attack damage went from 12 to 1240, and this applied to his super damage as well. These buffs, while appreciated, didn't push Frank to be a top-tier brawler. They slightly changed some interactions, but didn't fundamentally change his standing in the meta. Sure, the buffs made Frank a bit stronger, but he still struggled with his attack delay and overall utility. The changes were not enough to make him a balanced or highly competitive brawler. After 2 months, all the tank brawlers, including El Primo, Bull, and Frank, were ready for a crucial change. On June 16, 2021, a new trait was introduced for tank brawlers with high health. Because these brawlers were struggling against long-range brawlers, Supercell aimed to balance this out. The new trait allowed these brawlers to gain supercharge based on the damage they received. This change helped a lot, especially for El Primo, who became more popular due to the increased utility. But did Frank benefit from this change? The answer is yes, but not as much as hoped. While the trait provided some advantage, Frank still remained one of the worst brawlers in the game. The trait made Frank slightly better, but it wasn't enough to elevate him in the competitive meta. He still struggled with his attack delay and overall utility, keeping him at the lower tiers. So we come to Frank's final change for a while, though it wouldn't be the last forever. On October 27, 2021, Frank received buffs to both of his gadgets. The first gadget to be buffed was active noise cancelling, which now bypasses El Primo's suplex supplement gadget. While not a significant change, it allowed Frank to deal with El Primo better than before. The other buff was to his second gadget, Irresistible Attraction. This change made his attack deal double damage, making the gadget more competitive with active noise cancelling. While these buffs were nice, they didn't make Frank significantly stronger. The meta had evolved, with many new brawlers and changes to others, but Frank remained largely untouched for the next few years. After almost 3 years, Frank finally received what can only be described as a huge buff. For years, Frank languished at the bottom of every tier list, even becoming a meme within the Brawl Stars community. But on June 25, 2024, everything changed. The lower his health, the faster his attack. This rework addressed his biggest weakness, his attack delay. But that's not all. Frank also received a hypercharge. For those wondering, hypercharge is a new mechanic allowing brawlers to charge a new meter, similar to the super, but it takes longer. It grants buffs like speed, damage, and shield boosts, and most importantly, enhances the regular super with additional buffs. Frank's hypercharge Seismic Smash transforms his super into a 360 attack, a game-changing feature that fans anticipated would break the game. This was a major overhaul, and it catapulted Frank from the bottom tier to an absolute powerhouse. You might be wondering, is Frank good in the meta now? He's not just good, he's extremely broken. Even his usual counters struggle against him because of the attack delay fix. This was Frank's peak, and the community loved it after years of him being trashed. However, the celebration didn't last long. 1 week later, Frank received a nerf to his main attack delay speed boost. Despite this, the nerf didn't significantly impact his performance, and he continues to dominate the meta and ladder. In conclusion, Frank's journey has been one of extreme highs and lows. He's been overbuffed and underpowered, but Supercell finally addressed his core issues. While we expect more balance changes to come, Frank's current state is a testament to his resilience. So there you have it, folks, the history of the worst brawler in Brawl Stars, who finally found his place in the spotlight. Thanks for watching, and let us know which brawler's history you want to see next. See you in the next video.